Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day. I'm excited to talk about the gate process. Really, I literally am excited to talk about it. I've said this before, and I don't know if you've heard me. Sales is a numbers game, right? This idea of sales is if you do enough of the right thing the right way, you're going to achieve your goals and what you want to achieve, right? And that's what I mean by numbers game. Enough of the right thing. And the pipeline is the same thing. If you have enough in your pipeline, enough of the right opportunities in the pipeline, then you're going to achieve success. Today, we're talking about capture, but I want to just make sure we're always on the same page that capture fits within the federal sales life cycle. It begins with business development, where, among other things, you're identifying opportunities. It moves on into the capture phase, where you're shaping an opportunity, going into the proposal phase, where you're writing the proposal and you're sending out a winning proposal to the government. So capture is where the pipeline really is tracking your activity, right? Tracking those habits to make sure you're doing the right activity. That's what I'm going to dive deep into today. We're going to cover three main things, but a lot of activity. You can see if you're looking at my screen that I've got a lot of slides that I want to talk to, and I'm going to move forward pretty fast. It's easily an 8-hour training session pushed into 30 minutes. So the first thing I want to do is just go an overview of the 7 stages of the sales pipeline as I define them, right? The second one is criteria for advancing opportunities through the pipeline. And we call this the gate process. So each time you're moving to the next stage, you're going through a gate review to say, do we want to move forward? That really is basically bid, no bid. Continue to work on it, don't continue to work on it. And then the third thing I'm going to talk about is predicting revenue accurately using your sales pipeline. This is vital for you as a salesperson. It's vital for you as a leader within your company. And it's also vital for anybody else in your company who is depending on the information coming out of the pipeline to be accurate, so that the activity they're planning is aligned to the results that the pipeline is going to deliver. So basically sales, right? So that's what we're going to cover today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming into these trainings day after day and getting engaged with the other people in the community. And so I want you to put your company name and your core competency into the chat. Let others know what you sell, what your company name is. If you can hyperlink it into LinkedIn to your company page, do that. Let us know maybe what city and state you're in. Maybe other people will want to connect with you going, oh, hey, you're in Oklahoma City. I'm in Oklahoma City. Why don't we connect, right? And so put that information in. And then the other thing is, if you're open to connecting on LinkedIn, let us know. And if you're out there on other social media platforms, come into LinkedIn. You will find all sorts of federal buyers that you will not find on any other social platform here. Plus, you'll find the rest of us who would love to connect. Okay, let's get diving into this 8 hours worth of training into 25 minutes now. The first thing I just want to do is just come back and talk about the pipeline and the 7 stages that I walk through that you should be tracking on. So when an opportunity comes onto your radar in any way and you think it looks good, I encourage you to put it into the pipeline so that you can track your activity. When you do, that opportunities stage, pipeline stage, is unqualified, right? It looks like a fit for our company, but we're not quite sure yet because we haven't done more work. When you put it in, now you're tracking that more work. When it goes from 1 to 2, the second stage is qualified. We've confirmed that it's a fit for our company. It looks good. And I'll talk about the criteria specifically in the next few slides. As we move forward, right, and you're working on an opportunity, you decide whether, if it's a fit for our company, we're going to move it forward into pursue. Step 3 here is, and this is where you're doing the meat of capture. The really most important part of capture, I think, is this early stage in pursue, where you're learning what you can about it and you're building some early relationships with the people related to the opportunity. When you've have it in pursue and you've moved it forward enough and you pass through a gate, and again, I'll talk about gates as we go forward, it goes to the bid stage. And the bid stage is really where you start getting more people involved, the proposal team, solution team, et cetera. And you're starting to really think about, okay, how do we shape this internally and our response internally? From there, when the RFP drops, you're going from step 4 to step 5, or stage 4 to 5, where you go to the proposal stage. And this is where the RFP's dropped and you start writing the proposal and you're moving forward. When you finish writing the proposal, you go through one more major gate, right? Which is to decide, are we going to submit this, or is this just not right for us to submit? And when you decide to submit it, it goes into this next stage. I call it awaiting award, right? I sent to the government, I'm awaiting an award. I'm not awaiting a win or loss, I'm waiting an award. But really, it's just sitting out there. And then the last stage is when it is awarded, whether you win or lose, that's an official stage for me in the pipeline, because there's activities I'll do with that opportunity in there. For example, just making sure we capture lessons learned on why did we win it, why did we lose it, and doing a debrief with the government. Okay, from a high level, that's the opportunities. I want to walk you through, though, the criteria I use to go from each one of these stages. So let's begin with, and I'm just going to track my time and try to move through pretty fast because I really want to get to some of the last slides, which talk about money. But gate 0 is what I call the first stage, going from unqualified to qualified. The purpose of this gate, right, not the purpose of the stages, but the purpose of gate 0 is to determine if this opportunity that we found is worth keeping in our sales pipeline. Do we want to keep pushing it forward? And some of the criteria I lay out that you must figure out is, first off, it's got to be on your target list. If you don't have a target list, put it together. An example might be we're going after these 2 major commands in the Air Force and the Army and 1 DHS agency or something. If it's not there, even if it looks good, you got to walk away because it's not on your target list. The second criteria is it clearly within our core comps? When I saw it initially and put it into the pipeline, it looked good. But once I dug into it, do the task areas really align to our core competencies? That's what I'm looking for. If they don't, get rid of it because it won't be a slam dunk opportunity. And the third bullet in here is, have we been able to verify that the opportunity is active on the agency forecast? And what I mean by this is maybe I'm looking at FPDS and I found a bunch of expiring contracts and I pull them into my pipeline because they look good. But I haven't confirmed that the government is even going to recompete these, right? So I need to somehow figure that out. One of the ways you can confirm that it is an active opportunity is if it's in their long-range acquisition forecast. You know, it's really clear if they've done an RFI or sources sought, things like that. We're just trying to verify that it's active. And that's enough information for me to go from unqualified to qualified. When I'm in qualified, the activity I'm doing, and the reason I'm really paying attention to this is because when I approve gate 1, which is going to move it from qualified to pursue, that the purpose of that gate is to approve other people to work on it. I'm going to approve solution architects. So they're not working on it in qualified. They're going to work on it in pursue. So I don't want to move anything to pursue until I'm ready, till I met the criteria that I've listed here. But when I do move it to pursue, I'm telling the company, hey, solution architects, you can start working with the capture people and thinking about the solution. I don't want to invest that $10,000 an hour asset into capture before it's at a good stage. And then also I can have additional capture effort, whatever that is. Maybe I'm going to a conference specific to this, et cetera. So let's talk about the criteria I use when I'm in qualified, the things I'm trying to do so that when I get to gate 1 and I'm looking for approval from my boss or for myself, right? I'm holding myself accountable for this criteria. Have I captured the basic details? And the basic details are things like, the program office, right? It's the agency, the program office, the contracting office. I want to know those things. I want to know where they're coming. A lot of the basic things. If there's a GovWin number, if there's been any information on this activity that's been tracking, I want to reach out to the government and make sure there's a budget verified. If I can't verify the budget, if I can't verify that the budget's been approved or they're talking about it, et cetera, if I can't do that, then why would I move it forward and pursue? I don't even know if it's funded, right? And why would I put an opportunity I don't know is funded into pursue when other people in my company are going to start working on it? So I want to make sure I verify the budget has been approved or it's there. You know, it hasn't been transferred or anything, but it's there. And there's whole training that I could do on how do you verify, right? Each one of these. But I want a solid understanding of the scope. So I'm really reading the in qualified, I'm really reading the PWS, the statement of work, et cetera, that's laying out the details. And then if you've watched other training I've done, I complete a requirements gap analysis. This is basically where I shred the PWS into a spreadsheet, and then I give myself scores based on our skills and experience around something and the past performances. And I do that for each task area, and that's a requirements gap analysis. The next criteria that I have is I've identified my company's weaknesses. This is really important. I don't want to move forward to pursue where I'm going to be thinking about teaming until I really look at this and honestly go, you know what, we're not strong here. We're strong here, right? And the purpose of the requirement gap analysis is to help you make that easy. It scores on a scale of 1 to 5. Anything less than a 4, you're weak. Go get a partner. The last 2 bullets here, right? I have an initial understanding of winning strengths that we have. I'm looking in there. I'm like, ooh, we're really good here because of this. I've taken the time to think about it, maybe from my past performances or the fact that I know that, if your company's bigger, I know that we have centers of excellence or something where they're really focused on Amazon Web Services. It's like, hey, that's a strength of ours. Maybe a strength of ours, like my last company, it was communication and outreach. Even though we were a technology firm, communication and outreach was where we were really strong. And then the last one is I've met with the acquisition stakeholders. This means to me, I don't want to move an opportunity forward. And if I was your boss, I wouldn't move it forward to pursue unless you can tell me that you've talked with a small business specialist and either the contracting officer or the contract specialist for this opportunity. If you can't talk to those 2 to 3 people, then there's a good chance you're never going to talk to them and you're never really going to know anything about the opportunity. But guaranteed, your competitors are. And so you really need to, in my opinion, hold yourself strong to that last criteria that you must have met somebody and had a meeting with them, even if it's a 15-minute meeting, in order to pass through gate 1 to move to pursue. One thing I put over here as a note is gate 1 isn't about understanding the pain points, et cetera. That's forward because that's when we talk to the program office. So gate 2, right? So now we're in pursue. We're going to go to bid. If I approve you to go from pursue to bid, what I'm doing is I'm approving the proposal team to start getting involved. They weren't involved before. They're not involved until we move an opportunity into bid, right? And so this is really important that I don't move an opportunity into bid until it meets the criteria I've defined here on this page. And so the first thing is if usually we're going after recompetes, right? So I want to look at the previous contract. I want to look at the previous PWS, et cetera, and really understand that scope of work. But I also want to understand the RFP and the criteria they use to base their decisions on who they were going to award it to, et cetera. Any of the key personnel, whatever it is, the current contract, I really want to shred that and understand it as I'm moving forward. So if I'm your boss, you need to show me how you've looked at that. You need to show me the documents and that you've actually read them. And then on the existing opportunity that you're looking at, right? I need to know that you're looking at teaming partners and aligning them to where you just said we were weak in the previous gate. In gate 1, you're telling me, hey, we're weak in task area 3, 4, and 7. Okay, cool. Go find teaming partners. Well, now you're matching those weak areas to teaming partners. I want you to be able to understand what the customer is trying to achieve. This is goals and objectives. Some of it is in the statement of work or PWS, whatever, but most of it comes from going and having a conversation with the program office people, talking to them about their challenges. You're doing cybersecurity. What are you guys running into? There's all sorts of change. How do you feel about AI's impact on cybersecurity risk? Blah, 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 right? You're understanding both what they're trying to achieve through objectives and goals, but you're also trying to understand challenges and pain points that aren't written into the PWS. Your competitors are just going to look at a PWS and respond to it. Capture is about that last bullet, meeting with key program office stakeholders, getting in there and talking with them. What do they like? What did they like about the past contract, or just how they see information coming? What do they like to see from industry when they're trying to understand the requirements, et cetera? So in order for you to go from pursue to bid, I need to know that you understand the customer thoroughly. And so in pursue, this is why I say it's the meat of capture to me. This is where you're really reaching out to the customer and understanding the customer. If you can't do this, and if we can't do this, then we should not move an opportunity forward in the stages to bid because there's just, again, a good chance somebody else is actually talking to them. Okay. And by the way, just one really quick area, task area gaps are matched, right? But another reason why you want teaming partners is because they could get you insight and introductions into those program offices that maybe you can't. If you've never been in that agency, but they are, and they're on your team, use them to get in the door. Go in with them if you have to. So gate 3, we're moving from bid to proposal. And the whole point of this is that if I approve gate 3, when the RFP drops, I'm saying, yes, we're going to write a proposal. That's a huge cost to the company. And so I don't want to approve that until certain criteria is met. First, the RFP's dropped, right? Second, I want to confirm, and this is a big deal to me, is that if you've been doing capture correctly, there shouldn't be a lot of surprises at all in the second bullet where you're confirming the scope that's in the PWS that's dropped with the RFP is still solidly in our company's space, right? So you just look at that and is it still there? Yes, good. Next bullet, are the evaluation criteria set in a way that we can meet them? And this is why I said, go look at previous contracts to see what the evaluation criteria was. So you get an early heads up of what's going to be in this one. And when you get it, quickly shred it and look and go, yeah, we can meet all that stuff. Sometimes proposal managers might go through a whole shall exercise, pull all the shalls out, which you can do with AI now, and just look and go, no, none of those are a problem. Let's keep moving forward. Another one that's huge, and sometimes I see people make this mistake, is make sure you have your teaming agreements in place with teaming partners so that it's fully executed. In fact, you should be doing this in bid. That's kind of the whole idea, right? Is to make sure this is fully executed early in the bid cycle. That way, when you get closer and closer to the RFP, you're not worrying about last minute redlining on a TA. You're worried about the RFP. And the last thing is that you have proposal resources available. And so sometimes your pipeline has enough great slam dunk opportunities in it that you have to reject one because you just don't have a proposal writer, proposal team, et cetera, who can actually look at it. That's a good problem to have, right? But you also kind of need to forecast that out. And one of the cool things is if you start writing that proposal early in the bid or even proposal or pursue stage, then maybe by the time the RFP drops, you can handle crowded, multiple opportunities drop at the same time. But you just need to make sure you have resources. If you meet this criteria, then you move to the proposal stage and you're writing a proposal. And the idea here is the idea of the gate is you're doing this last minute check. Do we feel like we should be sending this? Some company leaders are worried about embarrassing themselves by sending out an opportunity or a response that just looks poor because people haven't taken the time, et cetera. And this is where the gold team review is coming in, right? It's looking at that and saying, do we feel like it's answering the mark? Do we feel like it's representing our company well? A lot of stuff that goes into the gold team review. But I mean, that's, to me, the big ones. But the pricing, do we feel like this pricing is good? Do we feel like the profit margins are where we want it to be? Are we going to be competitive? I think the bigger problem here is when we look at this and we no bid something that we have written a proposal to but haven't sent, it tends to be these prices are not acceptable to us. The government might accept it, but that whole LPTA is not worth it. Low price, right? It's not worth it. And so we look at that. And the last one here is requirements compliance check. Has that been completed? And this is really just the proposal manager and proposal team making sure that every requirement that's in the RFP is met in the proposal. If it's not, then it can't move forward to going to the next phase, which is literally sending it to the government. And so the idea of going through gate 4 is approving that proposal that's been written to send to the government. Sometimes that doesn't happen. In fact, you'll see when I talk about the numbers in a second, it goes forward. So, okay, so something like this, by the way, this criteria, I might take 4 hours to explain to you what I just did in 10 minutes. There's a lot that goes into it. I have fields that I use in a pipeline that says, get this field, that makes it really easy to capture data as you're going forward. But if you pay attention to this level of criteria I talk about, then the opportunities you're sending to the government, the proposals you're sending, the likelihood of winning them are going to go up significantly. Okay, so let's move on to the next big phase. And I apologize, I can't see the chat at the moment. So make sure you're chatting in there. I will come back after the fact and answer any questions. If you like something or agree with what you're seeing, if you're seeing something you want to kibitz on, throw that in there. That doesn't bother me either. But I will come back and look at it. Right now, I'm kind of focused on my slides and just trying to walk through those. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to measure your chances of winning. And so if you remember early on in today's training, I showed you this diagram, but I only showed you the stages. Now I've added in the red here, which is basically the odds of winning, and I'll talk about that. And I've added in the green, so you can see my entire graph. This is a handout, by the way. You can get this and something else. Sustaining members can get it for sure in the handouts in their library. This particular graphic, you can download it off my LinkedIn profile because I put it up there as a post this morning, I think. But just this part, not the number of parts that go into it. Okay, so let's talk about your chances of an opportunity moving forward. I talked about how you go from unqualified to qualified to pursue to bid. And what I really want to tell you about is numbers and the way I do numbers. These are my numbers, and they're what I call a baseline set of numbers. your numbers can go up or down. Mine in my last company were way better than what I have here. These are just good conservative numbers. So use these if you have no other numbers. And as you start having data that helps you define what your number is, just update these numbers that I teach you about. So what I have here, the idea of moving an opportunity, a single opportunity forward, the likelihood of an opportunity going from qualified through gate one, I don't know if you can see that down here, through gate one to pursue, the odds of that is 1 out of 3. So that means every 3 opportunities I have in qualified, 1 will move to pursue, right? 1 out of 3 opportunities in qualified will move forward to pursue. And you can see the pattern here, right? 1 out of every 2 opportunities that are in pursue that made it forward will move forward into bid. And what that means is if I want 2 opportunities in pursue in order to go to bid, then I needed to have 6 opportunities in qualified. So 6 opportunities in qualified mean 2 of them would move to pursue if I'm doing a 1 out of 3 odds. Hopefully that makes sense. And then the same thing as you move forward, right? 1 out of 2 moving from pursue to bid. And then I've done this the whole rest of the way. Basically, you have a 50-50 chance of moving forward. And some of the reasons is that criteria. For example, I said you need to talk with the contracting officer. Well, if you can't get the contracting officer or the small business specialist, both of them, not one, if you can't get them, then you're not moving forward to pursue, right? If you can't talk to the program office, you're not going from pursue to bid. And how often have you had opportunities where you just couldn't get in the door to the program office? Well, those are signs to me that maybe that's not the right opportunity for your company. And so it's the same thing when you get to proposal and awaiting awards. There's opportunities that you start writing a proposal for, and then you just give up. Maybe the relationship in the team explodes. Maybe what the customer wants is changing. Maybe you begin to write it and it's just too complicated. You get to the pricing, you can't really get to a place where it's profitable. Whatever the reason, proposal to awaiting award, it's 1 out of 2. And so I just want you to keep that in mind that as you're moving forward, and the reason this is really important is because these green numbers, the green numbers represent the dollars. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I want you to keep in mind that only so many opportunities in your pipeline will move forward. And if you have 7 stages like I have here, then there's a percentage that move forward. Generally, I didn't even put a percentage here for gate 0, but generally most of my opportunities move forward to gate 1. And then gate 1, it's 1 out of 3. So just keep these numbers in mind as we go forward. So now you're looking at this and you can see the gates that I just said. Gate 1 is a 1 out of 3 chance that you'll move it forward. And this chance, again, is based on the criteria. And so you see the gates there. The next part I want to talk about is the dollars. I'm going to show this to you 2 ways in the next 4 minutes. This way I'm going to show you in the roadmap, and then I'm going to show you in dollars. So here, what I say is when you submit an award to the government, you have a 1 out of 4 chance of winning. That means you need to submit 4 proposals to the government in order to win 1. As you go forward, adjust the numbers I'm going to tell you to your reality. But the reality is if I have a 25% chance, 1 out of 4, of winning proposals here, then when I come back to proposal, any opportunities in my pipeline in the proposal stage, they now count as a 12%, 12.5% chance. And really, it's pretty easy if you think about this. And I'm sorry for saying it's pretty easy. It takes a minute to get it, but once you get it, it's pretty easy to understand. But you see right here, it's 1 out of 2 going forward through gate 4. If that number holds true, that 1 out of every 2 opportunities in proposal go to awaiting award, and then basically you're just doubling the number as you go back, or having the number as you go back, excuse me. So, and same thing as you go back. Let me go back on these so I can speed up a little bit. So if you look at awaiting award, your chances of winning are 25% of your own things. This is not a P win. This is just saying you should expect to win 1 out of 4 proposals that you submit. Your numbers might be up or down. So 1 out of 4, that means if you go back, then you're winning 1 out of 8 is basically what it's saying at proposal, and 1 out of 16. And I'm going to show you this in a second. But as you go back and see these numbers, the reason these are important is because when you look at your pipeline, every opportunity in your pipeline has a different value than the value the government gives. If the government says this is a $100 million opportunity, but it's in pursue, then it only counts for 3%. That means it's only counting for $3 million in what I call weighted value, right? As it moves forward, it keeps increasing in the value. So let me show you one more time before I run out of time here, or one more slide. So here, let's look at these numbers, but look at it in dollars, right? If I'm saying that right here, awaiting award is 25%, 1 out of every 4 can win an opportunity, then you need 4 proposals that you have submitted to the government at $10 million each in order to earn $10 million or win $10 million in revenue, right? In order to be able to predict 10 million, you need to submit 4, because your percentage of winning is 25%. Not your P-win probability of win, but just your percentage of winning. Right now, we win 1 out of 4, right? We won 1 out of 3, 1 out of 10, whatever your number is. When you have that number and you plug it in, then you can start predicting how much do I need in my pipeline at certain stages in order to get 10 million. So let's back that up. If I'm saying awaiting award is 25%, proposals are 12%, 12.5%. And that means I need 8 opportunities at 10 million to get $10 million in predictable revenue, because the proposal, only 4 of those 8 opportunities will move to awaiting award, and only 1 of those awaiting awards will win. Hopefully that makes sense, right? And then you see the math going back. It's just doubling it, because I've been saying this 16 represents this next thing in bid, right? Bid is 1 out of 2 will go forward. Gate pursuit a bid, right here, 32, 1 out of 2. So I'm just doubling the numbers. In this last one, I'm saying 1 out of 3 opportunities will move forward in the sales cycle, right? And move forward through the pipeline. And that means I need 96 opportunities. Now, you don't really need 96. 96 is too many. But the reason I'm saying this is, if you don't do capture and you really move forward opportunities into bid, for example, pursue and bid, then you're going to need a ton in there. But when you find the right opportunities and when you do capture correctly, you're going to move more and more opportunities forward in the sales pipeline. And when you do, you're increasing your chances of winning. So hopefully that made sense. It's a lot with the dollars. I'm trying to push in 8 hours into the 30 minutes here. But in this training, we talked about the gate criteria, the odds of moving it through the pipeline. That's the 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2. And then the percentage of the pipeline value that's going to convert to revenue, which means if you want 10 million, then you probably need 100 or 200 million in your pipeline in order to get 10 million win. So do me a favor, watch this training with your colleagues and talk about it. Create a plan, decide, where are we? Are we doing well here? Are we not doing well here? And then go somewhere with that. If you're not getting value from our live trainings here, do me a favor, become a sustaining member so we can continue to do this for small businesses all across the country. And if you're already making money, $1, $2 million in the federal space, and you want to go to the next level, you'd like to work with me and my team, we've got a BD Accelerator workshop is where we start people off. Ping me on LinkedIn and I can let you know about that workshop. And then finally, remember, government contracting, pipeline management, they're not secrets. They're just processes. I'll see you in the next training.